War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. What's going on, you guys? It's your boy, Movie Boy Mike, and today I want to talk to you guys about George Orwell's classic novel, 1984, which could not be more relevant in 2025. But before we get into it, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. It really makes all the difference. Now let's get right into it. The story follows Winston Smith, a 39-year-old journalist who's unbearably miserable as the government has control of every aspect of his life. Winston lives in London, England, only England is part of Oceania. Oceania is ruled by a figure known as Big Brother, who essentially is a man in a mustache meant to resemble both Hitler and Stalin, as the author George Orwell had lived through Hitler's Nazi Germany and Stalin's Soviet Union. Winston works at the Ministry of Truth, which is essentially a journalist during this time. Only difference is he doesn't tell truth to power, he tells lies to the powerless, creating propaganda and correcting the errors of Big Brother. Showing public display of emotions in this world is forbidden. So is free speech and freedom of expression. The government enforces this by hiding microphones and cameras everywhere. The face of Big Brother is on every TV screen. It's against the law to turn your TV screen off, especially at home. Civilians also have no right to marry who they love. The only time citizens in Oceania are allowed to show any kind of emotion is during Hate Week, which is when the government gathers a crowd to hate Oceania's enemies, which constantly switch from East Asia to Eurasia, the other two superpowers of the world. The party's rise to power was a part of a global shift. After endless wars and social breakdowns, Oceania formed from the United States, combined with England and other parts of Europe and the Americas, creating what we know in the book as Oceania. Eurasia and East Asia have also combined the other continents into one unified government. The three superpowers betray one another all the time as they're constantly fighting for global control. Winston, during this time, sees through the government and feels like he's the only one that remembers what life used to be like before Big Brother took over. As Winston can't even get privacy in his own house, Winston has a diary that he bought from a local shop owner, where he writes about all of his anxieties and fears of Big Brother. Winston sees a man by the name of O'Brien who keeps giving him funny looks, and Winston constantly thinks to himself that O'Brien could be an ally who feels the same way that Winston does about the government. But obviously, because of how suspicious this world is, he's afraid to approach O'Brien. The shop where Winston found the diary happens to have a room that's available for rent that allegedly has no cameras in it. Throughout the novel, Winston constantly is writing down how unfair Big Brother treats its fellow citizens, along with writing down how many of Winston's friends had been taken by the secret police for thought crimes against Big Brother. With Winston being a journalist in this universe working at the Ministry of Truth, he's on the front lines of seeing how much Big Brother lies to the public. Winston also sees a girl named Julia at work, and he hates her because he can't have her. He hates her because he's already technically married to somebody who he doesn't like, but as it's against the law to get any kind of divorce in this universe, he knows he can't have her, and he doesn't like that. But one day, Julia passes Winston a note at work, and the note says, quote, "I love you." Now this totally rocks Winston's world, as finally he's getting a little bit of excitement in this really boring and strict world that he lives in. So Winston and Julia find a way to secretly talk and connect, and the two of them decide to take a day trip to the country, where there is allegedly not a lot of cameras, and surprise, surprise, they sleep together. And this rocks Winston's world because he knows he's breaking every single law that Big Brother has been opposing on him since day one. Winston's ready to take the next step. One day at work, O'Brien approaches Winston and asks if he can come over to his house after work to show him a new copy of the book Dictionary of Newspeak. Winston knows people don't usually go over to other people's houses in this world because it's technically against the law, unless you're working. So Winston agrees to it, and has a feeling that O'Brien feels the same way that he does about Big Brother. Winston goes to O'Brien's house with Julia, and O'Brien Winston learns is very high up in this society, so much that he has the privilege to turn off his TV for 30 minutes whenever he chooses. With the TV off, tells O'Brien that him and Julia are looking to join the resistance and want to fight back against Big Brother. O'Brien says he's with the resistance and there is a secret fight against Big Brother. Now this further rocks Winston's world as he can finally see the joy that life truly is supposed to be about, and he can see how much Big Brother has been suppressing this from him. So him and Julia agree to join the resistance with O'Brien, and they wait on standby for the next instructions. So Winston takes Julia to the shop as the two rent the room for a night as they sleep together yet again. The picture on the wall in the room him and Julia were renting falls down to reveal that there was a TV of Big Brother's face behind the photo the whole time. What does that mean? It means they were being watched. Moments later, the two of them are ambushed by the thought police. So Winston and Julia are then taken to the Ministry of Love, which is not exactly a lovely place you want to be. As for what happens next, Winston is beaten, tortured, starved, and forced to watch other prisoners go through the same thing. He's put in a cell with 4 telescreens. Winston then finds O'Brien to find out that O'Brien was a member of the Thought Police and had been tracking Winston for 7 years. Winston is tortured day and night and asked repeatedly, what is 2 plus 2? 4. O'Brien tells Winston, if Big Brother tells someone that 2 plus 2 is 5, you better say 2 plus 2 is 5. The worst of it happens when Winston is brought to room 101, which is where the worst of the worst happens. Big Brother exposes any criminals to their worst fear in room 101. And Winston's worst fear happens to be rats. So what does Big Brother do? They put his face in a cage after they tie him to a chair, and inside the cage are 2 hungry street rats. And this freaks Winston out to the core, to the point where he screams and begs O'Brien to do it to anybody but him, including Julia. And once O'Brien hears that, he knows that he's officially broken Winston. Winston then finds Julia at a bar a couple weeks after they're released. They both admit that they betrayed one another, but of course they also knew that they had to and had no choice. With that said, it's not really a betrayal as much as it was the card they had to play. The novel then ends with Winston loving Big Brother full-heartedly and too afraid to think anything that opposes him. He loved Big Brother. And then he gets shot in the head. And as tragic as this is, and as much as this takes a turn for the worst in the novel, it goes to show that the government cannot break a person down so easily. It's good to remember that it takes an awful lot to break somebody down. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you guys like what you see, hit that like and subscribe button for more. And remember, Big Brother is watching you. I'll catch you guys next time.
Was that Movie Boy Mike? Oh boy, I think that was Movie Boy Mike.